Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. So, we're on episode 8 of Link Click, and it's the rule of 8. So, if you've not watched any of my reactions before, I have this thing where if there's a season of 11 to 13 episodes, typically 12 episodes, then I have a thing called the rule of 8. And typically the rule of 8 means that if you look at a story from a 3-act structure, you have the first act, which is usually the first 4 episodes. You have the second act, which is usually like the next 4, and then the final act is like the last 4. So with Link Click, it's been a little bit different. I would argue that your first 5 episodes are kind of act 1. We set up the characters, we set up the main conflict, we set up the consequences of this power that Lu and Cheng share. And so we see the duality of it. We see how it affects negatively with Emma's death in the first episode. We see how it's positive in the second episode with the 2 friends. And then we see in episodes 3 through 5, we see how we can't really change the future, but how we change the past can alter it. So the first 5 episodes of Link Click are kind of like act 1. And then we have Act 2, which is kind of episodes 6 and 7, and could be episode 8. Episode 8 could be involved in that. But usually episode 8 is either the end of the second act of a story, or it's the beginning of the act leading up to the climax of the entire series, which is Act 3. Now, I know we're getting a second season of Link Click, so this may kind of warp things a little bit, but the rule of 8, usually the 8th episode in a series that's 11 to 13 episodes long is a good one. So I'm really excited. And this one's called Lost Signal. So I'm curious to see what we're going to be doing in this. But yeah, we last left off, the Aunt May situation with Dodo turned out to turn out fine. His parents and Dodo are traumatized, but at least they're together again. And the boy isn't dead. I was glad about that. And then right at the end, old Zhao, our police chief, comes up to Lu and Cheng with the case of Emma wanting them to take it on. And we've set up that Lu has not told Cheng about Emma, and Cheng really hasn't. Apparently Cheng doesn't watch the news, which can relate because he doesn't know what's happened with Emma. And I'm like, And so we've spent the last couple of episodes reestablishing the trust that Lu and Cheng have. And I'm like, if we throw Emma back into this, what is that going to do about Cheng's trust towards Lu and not telling him? What is that going to say about the whole power and the consequences of everything? Y'all have said, you're like, oh, get ready, the last part of the season's fun. I'm like, ha ha ha. So I don't want to be spoiled, obviously, but I am excited to see what's going to happen with these characters going into the final act of season 1. It's going to be a fun time. So with that being said, I'm pretty excited to start Link Click episode 8 and see what all happens. So let's do that, shall we? We are going to start episode 8, Lost Signal of Link Click, and we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Okay. Oh no! What the hell? What the hell, show? Okay. Nope, I don't like this at all. I don't like this at all. I don't like this at all. Okay. Okay, so is this a case of trying to have your cake and eating it too? If is that the sort of thing? Is that what's happening? Because something's wrong. So the first part of this episode, it all seemed, God, this episode was so crazy. Poor Zhu, right? So the whole thing about this, so yeah, so let's dive through this because holy crap. Okay. It's episode 8, rule of 8. We're setting up this is going to steamroll into the climax. Great. Wonderful. So it makes sense that Lu's like, no, we can't do this case. Absolutely not. There's too much being emotionally compromised. And we see case in point, Cheng is emotionally compromised. Cheng is instantly like, no, we got to solve it. We got to do something. And Lu's like, nope, not. Because here's the thing. One of the nodes that you can't cross is death. You can't cross the death of someone. You just, that's one aspect, that's one nodal point you cannot cross is if someone dies. Well, going into the thing, I mean, with cases we've had so far, Emma's originally was just getting like a scheme, like turning in a company that was committing fraud. So there was that. The recipe one's pretty nonchalant. The earthquake one, that's one where we had the nodal point that we can't cross, which is death. So all that case was just admitting his feelings to those people before they died, but he didn't change that they died. That was the crux of it. And then the case with the martial artist had nothing to do with death, and the case with the child abduction, it, for all we know, Dodo wasn't dead at any point during his life when they hired him onto the case. He'd just been probably taken away to a different, by the human trafficker to someone else, but he wasn't dead, right? With a serial killer and homicide, the whole incident is about death. And so you can't take on that case because time and space has made it to where that person has died. You can't change the future now. It's already set in stone. So taking on a case about a homicide, even if it wasn't related to Emma at all, even if it was someone directly not involved with it, that's still altering the course of time and space. Someone's died and that's altering that fate. And Lu's like, no, we do not need to do that, especially with Cheng involved, because Cheng is our empath. He's super emotionally charged and connected to all these cases. So no, not going to work. So it makes sense why he says no. Even if Emma wasn't a factor in it, he's like, homicide, it's too much connected to the time and space thing. We can't do it. No. And they actually, Zhu comes in and says, how does this power even work? And I like that Ling is just honest to the audience. She's like, I don't know. They just have to be by themselves for it to work. And it's like, okay. So at least the show's honest. They're like, nah. And I like Zhu and Cheng's relationship. They very much have. It's funny because Zhu and Ling's relationship reminds me a lot of Lu and Cheng, that they're best friends, kind of in a sense. And Zhu and Cheng, they have this kind of like brotherly, sisterly animosity towards each other, but it kind of feels like siblings. They feel like siblings that are just trying to get a rise out of each other, is what it feels like. And we've established that these guys have known each other since childhood. So that adds another layer of emotional connection for Cheng, because he's like, oh yeah, I've known Zhu since we were kids. But he didn't know she was in a relationship with Dong Yi. The whole thing with Dong Yi, very relatable. Very, very, very relatable. And I'm glad it actually went the direction I didn't think it was going to go. Because when we see, first of all, that she blacked out, what I was afraid of was him saying, like, it's been great being your friend all these years, but I'm not interested in you in that way, and we're going to go separate ways, and I just want to know you've been a friend. That's where I thought it was going to go. And I've been there, honestly. Full disclosure, I've been, in like a quasi-relationship with someone, and you think that the two of you think that you're kind of in a relationship, and then when it gets to that point of confessing and admitting, and they're like, no, I kind of just thought you were a friend, it's like, well, damn, it hurts. It hurts a lot. And I've been on the other end of that too, where I had someone that thought we were going to be in a relationship, and I was like, no. So I've been on both sides of that situation, and it sucks both ways. So I was really afraid that was going to negatively impact her, finding out that he didn't think that way. And so here's the thing too. The question is, I guess Lu did know what he was going to say, but here's the question about all that, right? I'm curious, did Lu make any of it up? I don't think that he did. Lu doesn't seem like that type of person, but it kind of calls into question, like, why did you have Cheng experience all that and the power working and him seeing everything when you were just going to find out what the message was anyway? Why did Cheng have to experience that? Unless it was to make it real. And that's why I wonder if that's where the nodes were crossed. I don't know. But because the power is weird. Like, Cheng has to experience it for that person, for the past to actually be changed. And it seems like Lu went around, like found a loophole and went around the system, because Cheng didn't end up hearing what he said anyway. He was too focused on the guy that he thought was the serial killer. So it almost seemed like Lu kind of cut a corner and kind of cheated the system and was like, well, here's what he was going to say anyway. I'm just going to solve the case for us because she's a friend. I'm going to solve the case for us and just go ahead and tell you what he was going to say, regardless. And I'm like, did Lu mess up? That's my question. And so Cheng and Lu, did both of them mess up? Because yeah, Cheng inadvertently caused this whole situation when he did the nose picking to the guy that was trying to confess to her. Like, him being kind of cold in that moment caused that guy to have a nervous breakdown. And I was wondering in the moment, I'm like, okay, we've established that you can't do really anything out of the ordinary because it'll alter the future. And I was like, okay, well, is what Cheng just did, is that going to alter the future? And it did. It caused that guy to show up. And that guy to show up with the chloroform. I'm like, that's not just a case. That guy was a stalker. That is creepy. No, good thing she turned him down, because I'm like, nah. even if someone you like breaks up with you or rejects you, you don't get chloroform and go kidnap them. You don't do that. No. So, you know, on the one hand, it's like, I'm glad Cheng stopped this guy from potentially doing that to someone else, you know, that rejected his affections. Also, I like the whole song with Zhu in the karaoke thing. I like that Lu comments, he's like, good breath stability. Good job. Way to go. You did it. It's almost like Lu was appreciating Cheng singing. And I kind of like that because I ship Cheng and Lu. But also Cheng, I like that Cheng's feeling the emotions that she's having for Dong Yi. And he's like, my heart's beating. I don't know what to do. So I just need to keep drinking or do something. And I'm like, you're just making it worse. But I like that Cheng's having to experience these feelings and getting that what she's getting at. And then we go through, and it's, yeah, the idea that they followed each other from the beginning. They followed each other all throughout college and everything. And she kept following him because she wanted to be with him. And she just, and I totally relate to her feeling where she's like, I didn't want to tell him how I felt because I didn't want this to end. Like, there's that comfortable factor, right? Where both him and her got into this comfortable routine and neither of them wanted to put it out there because they both were afraid of rejection. And that's what Lu tells her at the end through what he heard from him. He was afraid because he knew that once he got done with grad school, his parents were going to expect him to move back. And he didn't know how she'd feel about that. So he didn't want to confess because he's like, well, what if it doesn't work out? He didn't want to go through that heartbreak. She didn't confess because everything had gotten so routine and comfortable. She didn't want that getting thrown out. So she didn't want the heartbreak. So it's like both of them were denying each other their feelings because they were afraid of that rejection that would probably or maybe come. And so it's totally relatable. But yeah, in this moment with Cheng going after, I'm trying to piece together, so how could this have altered the future? How could this have altered the future? So you had the friend that was going to get the cab ride, right? You had the friend that was getting the cab ride and was on the phone trying to get the signal. And then this guy shows up and he's being super sketch. And Cheng can't tell from the photograph that the guy was blonde in the photo. He just sees the cap and the similar hairstyle and thinks it's the guy. Lu can't tell him that the guy's blonde because that would reveal that Lu knows more than he's let on. And that would get Cheng asking further questions. So he can't do that. So yeah, it makes sense why Cheng is so... And Cheng doesn't care about the mission at this point. He's so gung-ho to stop this serial killer because he's so compassionate of others that he foregoes the whole mission. And then that's my thing, is when... And so, of course, the guy probably thinks that he's done something wrong. And at the end, he questions whether or not Zhu was mad at him. And it's like, no, that wasn't the case at all. But my whole thing is, did Lu actually know what he was going to say? And then he takes off. Okay. And then, yeah. And I'm like, Cheng, this is the worst idea you've ever had. Going into a dark alleyway while you're clearly, like, having alcohol poisoning, about to pass out and black out. Why would you do this? Like, just... No. It's almost like, okay, Cheng, if you saw this guy coming, you could have just waited, heard what Dong Yi said, and used the other photograph, because there were two photographs. You could have used the other photograph to go back. And maybe that's what they're going to do in the next episode, because there was two photographs of her. She took a selfie of herself, and she had the photograph with Dong Yi. And I'm like, okay, maybe they're going to try to rectify this situation by going back. But then can they? But can they, though? Because if she goes back through the other photograph and sees herself, that's going to rip apart time and space. So that won't work. But yeah, but Cheng's whole thing is like, oh, I'll take a picture of the guy's face and that'll serve as another clue. And it's like, and Lu's like, you can't do this by yourself. And no, not good. And yeah, I like the idea of triggering subject. And I like the idea that Cheng thinks he's just going to pee and that's going to distract him. It was a good idea, except Cheng's a woman. So he's like, crap. And then he gets actually sick. And kudos to Dong Yi for sticking with her after she like just barfed everywhere, because that implies she did it in real life if she had those feelings come up. And then I like the face of Lu when Cheng says, oh, I forgot I'm a girl now. And Lu's just like, really? You're about to get mugged and possibly kidnapped, and that's what you're thinking about at this moment? It's such a great facial expression. It was so great. Yeah, the animation in this episode was really, really well done. But yeah, and then yeah, he throws up, and the guy shields his nose, and the guy pulls it. Clearly, at that point, it should have made sense the guy was not a serial killer because he chloroformed himself. The guy's clearly not experienced enough to do that, and it's like, oh. And then yeah, Dong Yi comes and helps her and she tackles him and he's like, when did you learn self-defense? It's just me. And then, and it's the mama's boy. And so, so then they have in the headlines, they go back and in the headlines, it shows her, and clearly the future's been altered to a great extent because, it just totally changed her future, right? But I want to go back to this, and on a case of unrequited love with a male classmate who had the wrong intentions, how to get so exaggerated and turn into a resolved urban mystery. Yeah, and it's because of you, Cheng. What's the bottom line? The baseless and exaggerated headline. They even published her photo. Yeah, so maybe they can use that photo to go in the past too? Maybe? Maybe they can use that photo to go back into the past now that the future has been altered. Maybe they can use that photo to change things. So then things get weird because Ling comes back in. You would think that after Cheng has altered the future, not to it doesn't seem like it to a significant extent, but enough. Ling seems totally chill, like Zhu has not contacted her to tell her that the future has been dramatically altered, because I would think that would affect it, right? And he's like, and then Lu's like, I wrote everything down. So that's interesting. And he's like, I forgot you had this ability. Like, what did he say back then? So I'm like, okay, but that's the question. He forgot he had this ability. So I'm like, does Lu have this ability? Or was Lu making it up? And he says he's already passed the message along. That's the question. Did he make it up, or was he actually able to hear what he said even though Cheng wasn't around? Did Lu just piece it together from what he heard in this and just pass it along to her? That's the question. I was afraid of hurting you who had stayed by my side for 6 years. And I'm like, is this just like Lu projecting his own feelings towards Cheng? Because they've all known each other for about 6 years or more. Is he projecting his own feelings of, I wanted to tell you about Emma, but I couldn't because I knew it would affect things, and so I didn't? Is Lu projecting his own insecurities about him and Cheng's friendship if this stuff about Emma comes out, and he was projecting it upon Zhu? Or did he actually hear Dong Yi's conversation? Don't tell me! I don't want to be spoiled! But I'm like, I feel like it's all going to come out in the wash in the next couple episodes. I'm meeting with Kuao Ling tonight. Do you want to come along? Okay, and so that this is still back in the past. Okay, and so then the whole thing about clarifying. Okay, so maybe he did actually hear Dong Yi, because Dong Yi sets up a specific time and place for them to go. Because leaving you, hurts more than anything else. Tomorrow morning, I have an important interview at the Union Building. Okay, so the question is, how does he, because is the whole Union Building thing taking place in the present? It seems like it is. It seems like, or was it happening in the past? Okay, so thinking about this, it's 1:13, 1:17. I have an important interview at the Union Building. So he was able to see 12 hours ahead. Okay, so he was able to see 12 hours ahead, and I hope that you can accompany him. And he's asking for her to make her feelings clear. Okay, let me ask if she went this morning. Okay, so she clearly saw the message, and he's waiting for her. But then it doesn't happen. Okay. And then I want to try to get this down right. Right? Because she says, did you accompany him to the interview this morning? So, okay, so this is in the present time. So this is something, okay, so these photos just recently happened. Okay, because I was thinking this was kind of like in the previous episodes where Ling was talking about being in college in the past. Okay, backing up now. It's all making sense now. So Ling, when episodes 6 and 7 happened, and Ling was talking about seeing the dad with the kid that was abducted, that was 3 years ago. And they had still been in undergrad. Okay, they were still in undergrad. It was like her senior year. And so then we cut 3 years ahead and they're finishing up grad school. So this has all been taking place. The task that she charged Cheng and them with was recent. It was something that happened like a couple nights, like the night prior, the night prior it happened. She basically came to them yesterday and was like, oh, okay, something's happened. Ugh. And so then now, okay, so this is all happening in present time now. So they didn't go that far back into the past. Okay. And then all their phones light up. This is so freaky. I'm really curious about all this now. What are you doing standing around? Okay. And he was waiting on her. What the hell? And then he doesn't see her. And he's like, he thinks he made her angry. And it's like, no, that wasn't the case at all. I'm like, no, that wasn't the case at all. You didn't make her angry. And then I can't read Chinese, so I don't know what this means. Like why there's two short messages. I don't know what that says. It's not translated. So maybe y'all can at least tell me what it says. And then she's going to call. She's about to call, and then they end up calling her. Oh my God. Yeah, no. Yeah, were you the one who sent the message in the group? And yeah, then there's, I don't like this. And it says, I will show up as promised. What the hell? What the hell? Nope. Not having this. Nuh-uh. I don't like this. Something's happened. Something really bad has happened. And I'm like, something really bad has happened. Okay. I don't know what to make of this episode. And y'all warned me. You're like, yeah, it's going to be hard to not binge the last part of this series. I don't know if I can wait a week. I don't think I can. I think I need to know at least one more episode so I can at least avoid spoilers. I feel like I need to watch the next episode to avoid spoilers. I really do. So, oh God. So we'll find out, won't we? Yeah, don't spoil me. Please don't spoil me. I don't know if I'm going to be able to watch ahead soon or not, but with stuff I'm scheduling, but don't spoil me, but damn it. Okay. So yeah, we'll see. So, I'm curious to know your thoughts down below. Please no spoilers, but I'm curious to know your thoughts down below on this episode because this is some freaky stuff, and I'm a little nervous going into the last 3 episodes of this series. But anyway, in the meantime, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and I'll be back very soon with episode 9 of Link Click. Bye.